The auction block at Station Nexus-7 was a place of casual cruelty, where sentient beings were evaluated, priced, and sold like equipment. The Galactic Concordat called them bond servants, workers who'd sell themselves into temporary servitude to pay off debts, gain citizenship, or simply survive. But everyone knew what it really was. Captain James Rivera stood at the back of the auction hall, hands in the pockets of his worn leather jacket, watching the proceedings with growing disgust. He'd come here looking for a crew member, someone to help run his aging cargo hauler, the Wanderer. He needed an engineer, preferably one who wouldn't ask too many questions about the kinds of cargo he sometimes hauled or the places he went. But watching people sold like merchandise made his stomach turn. "Next lot," the auctioneer announced, a Vexari with too many eyes and a voice that carried across the hall. "Item 2847. Zalarian female, combat training, technical aptitude, enhanced strength. 7 years remaining on contract." A figure was led onto the platform in chains, wrist restraints connected to ankle shackles, the kind designed for high-risk prisoners. The woman was Zalarian, humanoid but with distinctive green skin, red hair that fell past her shoulders, and facial markings that denoted warrior caste. She was young, maybe equivalent to mid-20s in human years, and held herself with rigid dignity despite the restraints. "Starting bid, 5,000 credits, the auctioneer announced. "Note, this item has been rejected by 7 previous potential buyers classified as broken. Buyer assumes all risk." James felt his jaw tighten. Broken. They were calling a living person broken like she was a defective appliance. 5,000, someone called, a mining corporation representative looking for cheap labor. The Zalarian woman's face remained impassive, but James saw her hands clench. 5,005, another bidder. 6,000, the mining corp again. The bidding continued half-heartedly. Nobody really wanted her, that was obvious. The broken designation meant trouble, meant risk, but she was cheap, and someone would eventually take a chance. 6,005, going once. James studied her. Zalarians were known as warriors, honorable to a fault, fiercely loyal once trust was earned. If she was classified as broken, something had happened to damage that code. The question was whether she was actually dangerous or just traumatized. Going twice, something in her expression, a flicker of despair quickly masked, made James's decision. 10,000, he called out. The hall went quiet. People turned to look at him. 10,000 was far more than the broken item was worth. The auctioneer's eyes gleamed. "We have 10,000 from the human in the back. Any advance on 10,000? Silence. The other bidders were clearly thinking the human was an idiot for overpaying. "Sold to the human for 10,000 credits. Collect your purchase at Processing Station 3. Processing Station 3 smelled like disinfectant and desperation. James stood at the counter while a bored clerk processed his payment and transferred the bond contract to his name. "You sure about this?" the clerk asked, barely looking up. "She's got a history. 6 rejections for violent behavior, 1 for psychological instability. Previous owner filed a complaint that she refused to follow orders." "What kind of orders?" James asked. The clerk shrugged. "Didn't say, but regulations state we have to inform buyers of all risks. She's your problem now. If she hurts someone, it's on you." The Zalarian woman was brought out, still chained. Up close, James could see the exhaustion in her eyes, the barely healed scars on her arms, the way she held herself like she was expecting another blow. "Remove the chains," James said. The guard looked at him like he'd lost his mind. "Sir, she's classified high risk. I heard. Remove them anyway, your funeral." The guard unlocked the restraints. The Zalarian woman stood completely still as the chains fell away, as if not quite believing it was real. Then her eyes met James's, amber eyes that held wariness, confusion, and the faintest spark of hope. "My name is James Rivera," he said. "Captain of the Wanderer, a cargo ship that's seen better decades. I need a crew member who can handle engineering, security, and isn't afraid of occasional legal gray areas. The contract says I own your labor for 7 years. I'm telling you right now, I don't own people. You'll work for me, yes, but as crew, not property. You'll have your own quarters, eat at the same table, get paid a share of profits. In 7 years, you'll have enough saved to buy out your contract early if you want, or you can stay on as paid crew if we work well together. Sound fair? She stared at him like he was speaking a foreign language. You're serious? Completely. The others, her voice was rough, accented. The others who bought me, they wanted a slave, a soldier, a toy. When I refused, when I fought back, they returned me as defective. Then they were idiots who didn't deserve your service. James held out his hand. I'm not looking for a slave or a soldier or anything else. I'm looking for a crew member, someone who can help me keep a dying ship flying and maybe watch my back in dicey situations. That interest you? She looked at his extended hand for a long moment. Why would you do this? I'm broken. Everyone says so. You know what I think? I think broken is what people call anyone who refuses to be treated like garbage. I think it's a label used by people who can't control you to make sure nobody else gives you a chance. James kept his hand extended. My ship is full of broken things, me included. We get along fine. Slowly, hesitantly, she reached out and took his hand. Her grip was strong, warrior-trained but controlled. My name is Zara Khan, she said. House of El-Kara. I was a guardian before my world was conquered. I swore I would never serve without honor again. If you keep your word, I will serve you with honor. If you break your word, you'll break my face. I get it. James smiled. Fair deal. Come on, let's get out of this place. The Wanderer isn't much, but she's home. The first week was tense. Zara moved through the ship like a caged predator, testing boundaries, waiting for James to reveal his true intentions. She barely spoke, responding to orders with minimal words, sleeping in the engine room instead of her assigned quarters. James's only other crew member, a grizzled pilot named Mac, who'd been with him for 5 years, watched the situation with amusement. She's gonna kill you in your sleep, Mac predicted cheerfully. Probably not. She's got a warrior's code, won't attack without provocation. And when you provoke her, then I'll deserve it. But James didn't provoke her. He kept his word. He treated Zara like crew, gave her work appropriate to her skills, paid her the promised share, included her in decisions. When she fixed the failing engine with a brilliant improvisation that would have cost him thousands at a repair station, he thanked her and gave her a bonus. I do not need extra payment, Zara said stiffly. I did my job. Yeah, but you did it exceptionally well. On my ship, exceptional work gets recognized. She stared at him, clearly not knowing how to process praise. The breakthrough came 3 weeks in, during a cargo run to a mining colony. A group of thugs tried to rob them on the loading dock. Standard piracy happened all the time in the outer systems. Zara moved before James could even draw his weapon. She disarmed 3 men in about 5 seconds, using just enough force to incapacitate without killing. Warrior training at its finest. When it was over, she stood over the groaning thugs, breathing hard, and looked at James with something like defiance. I did not kill them. I could have, but you said you did not want a soldier. So I used restraint. You protected the ship and crew without causing permanent harm, James said. That's exactly what I would have wanted. Thank you. You are not angry I acted without orders. Zara, if someone's shooting at us, you don't need my permission to shoot back. That's called common sense, not insubordination. Something cracked in her expression. The others, they punished me for acting without orders, said I was too independent, too aggressive, called me broken because I would not be their weapon. They were wrong. James met her eyes directly. You're not broken, you're a warrior who was treated like a tool and refused to accept it. That's not brokenness, that's strength. 3 months into the voyage, Zara joined them for dinner in the common area, a first. She'd been eating alone in the engine room until then. So, Max said through a mouthful of reconstituted pasta, you gonna tell us why you ended up on that auction block? Not judging, just curious. Zara was quiet for a long moment. Then, slowly, she told them. Her world had been conquered by the Krellian Dominion 5 years ago. As a guardian of House Velcara, she'd fought in the resistance until they'd been overwhelmed. Rather than be executed, she'd been sold into bond servitude, 7 years to pay her debt to society. She'd been bought and sold 6 times in those 5 years, each owner expecting her to be either a mindless soldier, a personal bodyguard willing to commit atrocities, or worse. Each time I refused to dishonor myself, I was returned as defective, she said, her voice flat. Each time, I lost hope that anyone would see me as more than a weapon or a beast. By the 7th rejection, I had accepted that I would die in those chains, that I would never regain my honor. Then the captain paid double what you were worth, Max said, grinning. Dumbest business decision I've ever seen, best one I ever made, James corrected. We got an engineer who's brilliant, a security specialist who saved our asses twice, and a crew member who's proven she's trustworthy and capable. Seems like a good deal to me. Zara looked at him with something like wonder. You truly see me as crew, as equal. I see you as someone who deserves respect and a chance to rebuild your honor. The rest is up to you. 4 years later, James sat in a Concordat legal office on Station Prime signing papers. Zara stood beside him, no longer in the practical coveralls of a ship engineer, but wearing formal guardian armor she'd commissioned, black and silver, bearing the crest of House Velcara. This is highly irregular, the legal clerk said. Early contract buyouts are rare, and usually the bondservant pays. I'm paying, James interrupted. Zara's earned her freedom 10 times over. I'm buying out the remaining 3 years of her contract and officially releasing her from bond servitude. The clerk processed the paperwork. She's free to go then, legally unbound. James turned to Zara. You're free. You can go anywhere, do anything. You've got 4 years of saved wages, enough to book passage home, start a new life, whatever you want. Zara looked at the freedom papers in her hands, then at James. And if what I want is to stay, then you stay as paid crew, not bond servant. Same quarters, same work, but as a free woman choosing to be here. No contract except the one you want. I choose to stay, Zara said immediately. The Wanderer is my ship. You are my captain, not by force of law but by choice. By honor. Mac, who'd been watching from the corner, wiped his eyes. Damn it, I promised myself I wouldn't cry. You're not crying, you old softy, James said, his own voice rough. Damn right I'm not. Mac stood and clapped Zara on the shoulder. Welcome to the Wanderer, crew member Zara Khan, free woman, badass engineer, and the only reason this ship hasn't fallen apart completely. 7 years after that auction, James received a message that Station Nexus 7 was holding its annual auction again. He almost deleted it. He had a full crew now. The Wanderer was running better than ever, and he had no interest in participating in that system again. But Zara saw the message. We should go. Why would we go back to that place? Because there are others like I was, labeled broken because they refuse to be slaves, rejected because they have honor. Zara's amber eyes were intense. You gave me a chance when no one else would. Perhaps we can do the same for another. James thought about the woman in chains 7 years ago, about the 7 rejections that had almost destroyed her spirit, about his impulsive decision to pay double for someone everyone else considered worthless. You're right. Let's go find another broken one and give them a chance. They found 3 at that auction, a Thalaxian male with chronic illness that made him unsuitable for labor, a human woman who'd been rejected for being too educated and questioning, and a young Drex who'd been labeled broken for refusing to participate in illegal activities. James bought all 3, paid their contracts in full within a year, and offered them positions as free crew. All 3 accepted. The Wanderer became known across the outer systems not just as a cargo hauler, but as a ship crewed by the broken ones. Those rejected by society, labeled as defective, written off as worthless. They became a family of misfits, and they were fiercely loyal to each other and to the captain who'd seen value where others saw only damage. And Zara, who'd been rejected 7 times and nearly lost hope, became James's first officer, the second in command of a ship full of people who'd all been told they were broken and had proven that label wrong. Because that's what James had learned on that auction platform 7 years ago. Broken is just a word people use for anyone who refuses to be less than they are. Anyone who won't compromise. their honor, their dignity, their humanity, or whatever the alien equivalent was. The truly broken ones weren't the people in chains. They were the ones who'd put them there. And sometimes, all it takes is one person saying, "I'll take her," to change everything. For the person in chains, for the person choosing to see their value, and for all the other broken people waiting for someone to give them a chance. The Wanderer flew on, carrying its crew of rejects and outcasts, proving every day that broken things can be stronger than new ones, and that family isn't about perfection. It's about choosing each other when the rest of the galaxy has given up on you. That's what makes it real. That's what makes it worth everything.